I would now call upon Mr. Satish Burley, who's the practice head automotive 5G and digital, and the VP of technology, Saskin Technologies. He would be interacting with Ms. Lata, who is the head of technical center, India Continental Automotive. All the ladies, you need to be a little more excited. You have Lata, who's such an inspiration to all of us. And the gentlemen, please show some more appreciation for that distinguished panel here. So let's welcome Satish onto the panel, please. Satish, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining the session. We want to discuss today about CV2X, the ecosystem, the outlook for CV2X over the next several years, and the technologies involved. And we would like to begin with discussing the key CV2X ecosystem partners and how we see the ecosystem playing out in the midterm and the long term. Lata, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, so quite an interesting question, Satish. So I would say that V2X is a kind of a technology which has evolved over the last 20 years. And the primary stakeholders who are leading the direction of V2X market kind of includes the telecom players, obviously, the OEMs, the ITS company, the automotive solution providers, technology companies, and not to forget the government and the regulatory bodies who are framing the policies. So V2X has had a very strong market introduction somewhere in 2016 itself, with multiple OEMs confirming the SOP, and the infrastructure towards this has been developing constantly, and the ecosystem players also getting added continuously. So what we envisaged maybe a couple of years back, I think it has changed quite a lot. For instance, in 2018, Continental successfully carried out a joint cellular V2X trial in Japan, along with partners like Ericsson, Nissan, NTT Docomo, OKI, and Qualcomm. And these companies have successfully conducted Japan's first CV2X testing in the country using 5.8 gigahertz as an experimental radio frequency for direct communication. And there were a lot of use cases which were designed to address the various aspects of V2X communication. So going forward, I would see that even road operators are becoming stakeholders, because these roadside units will deliver the V2X data that are very important for early adopters. And on top of it, you have the city and infrastructure providers. And looking forward, it could be even the insurance providers will be part of the new ecosystem, right? And this is an area which has got, I would say, significant business potential. And this V2X market, which is currently somewhere around $700 million, it is kind of growing to a whopping 14 million or 13 million USD in the next 8 to 10 years. It is very, very clear that a lot of new players will also enter the market. But there are also certain challenges in this space which are coming up, because one is this is the wireless nature of the V2X communication. So how do you kind of secure it? How do you guarantee the privacy of the users? So this is something which we have to look at, especially in the automotive industry, which does not have a great track record of cybersecurity. Yeah, and has also been very slow to develop some of the necessary skills in the entire supply chain. So the other challenge is also, when we talk about the ecosystem and the adoption of the technology, is the industry and the global governments. They have kind of collectively failed to resolve the chicken and egg question of whether the vehicle should adopt the technology first or it should be the infrastructure, right? So, and V2X, obviously, it calls for huge infrastructure investments, and the economic challenge of covering the cost of infrastructure still poses a challenge. And I would say that another important thing which is looking at is also the Federal Communications Commission, when they set up this 5.9 gigahertz ITS spectrum for a connected vehicle program 20 years ago. We had this foresight of allocating a dedicated spectrum, but the industry has been very slow to deploy this whole thing. So all these things, I would say, are factors which will kind of I would say impact. And it's very clear that connected vehicles are complex and the intelligent transport systems are complex, and they require the agreement and the orchestration of many different entities, including this government, regulatory, technical, commercial organization, and companies. So it's getting complex. I would say the game is getting very, very interesting as well. Yeah. But Satish, I would like to hear a different view from you. This is on the connected topic. So if you see the automotive industry, there are two revolutions, I would say, happening side by side. One is the transition into the electric power and the rise of autonomous vehicles. And both these topics have heavy connection to the infrastructure per se. So how are these increasing adoption of electric vehicles and this changing environmental norms, which you read in the papers every day, how is it affecting the automotive V2X market? What is your take on it?
Yeah, that's, as you said, it's an interesting topic, and the trends are obvious for all of us to see, right? More than 2.6% of the global vehicles are now electric, and the number of electric vehicles is sold compared to the standard combustion vehicles is increasing approximately by 40%, right? So the other trend, as you again pointed out, is the fact that almost 70% of the cars which are being sold now are connected, in the sense that they have telematics and technologies built in. Now, if you combine this with the fact that more than 14, 15 commercial V2X vehicles also being launched over the last few years, you're now seeing the fact that a large number of vehicles are going to be electric, connected, and many of them have having V2X connectivity, right? Now, this opens up two parts from what we understand. One is the fact that mostly the sale of electric vehicles has been in the past challenged by range anxiety, charging point availability, where is this available, how fast can I charge it, and so on, right? And that's something which I believe the connected vehicles and the fact that V2N makes an important way to solve that. And most vehicles being sold have some sort of an infrastructure connectivity already built in, right? Several OEMs are doing their own charging networks. Many of them are partnering with companies like EVBox, which basically set up charging networks for you. And then there are charging standards being defined. You now have vehicle applications or your mobile applications which tell you which is the nearest charging station, where is it, how much time is it for you to wait there, how many outlets are available, and so on. So the coordination of charging, and that becomes an interesting V2N case where you basically have the car communicating with the network and the charging infrastructure and understanding what is the availability of charging. This goes a long way in solving, the range anxiety, and of course, pushing this, sale of electric vehicles forward, right? Now, of course, there are mandates by governments. The China government has a new energy vehicle mandate. Europe has CO2 norms. US has regulations. These are all, again, helping the movement towards electric and enabling the sale of this. Now, there is another aspect of this which is important and which is, again, becoming very interesting, is the V2G aspect, right? And this is something which has been talked about, where the vehicle is talking to the grid. Now, here we are basically talking about a vehicle which is, 70 kilowatt hour or range, right? Which is basically becoming an energy storage house. And this can be a very important factor in the future, where you're talking about vehicles communicating to the grid and also being able to store energy and restore back or give it back to the grid when needed. In fact, these are studies and some of them actually implementations done in Europe, where the vehicles are storing energy during a period of time and helping the grid back at the evening hours or when there is a load increase, and the vehicles give back energy to the grid. So this is something which is interesting, becoming popular. And in fact, there are vehicles which have these capabilities because it requires special access and where you can send current both ways. And there are companies like OEMs like Mitsubishi, which has a car which does this. There are companies in US which have buses which have more storage, which have given back close to 500 hours of power back to the grid. So this is another interesting aspect of V2G, which is something which is going to be interesting in the years to come. But one thing which all of this will encompass is the security aspect, which you briefly touched upon. And maybe I would like to ask you to elaborate more on what is the cyber security aspect and what's the vulnerability of these users, and how is the technology evolving to cover those aspects?
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that question. But before that, I would really like to comment on what you told about this vehicle, giving back power to the grid. I think the world is moving into a situation where every car owner will become a business owner, right? In terms of either, exchanging data or giving up power. I think, if you really plan it out smartly, I think car owners are becoming business owners, right? Okay, so coming to this, the cyber attacks and this topic, I think it has gained a lot of popularity after the Jeep attack was there, one of these famous videos which was there. And the connectivity has opened doors for many services, impelling vehicle safety, driver convenience, and comfort. And connected technologies are really helping transform vehicles from a mode of transportation to even, I would say, mobile living space, especially for the new generation. It's fueled by experience, and it's a mobile living space. And the car itself, if you look at, in our, younger generation sees it differently, we see it differently. The car has kind of transitioned from a mechanical device which will take us from point A to point B. Yeah, and it has really kind of transformed into an IoT device on wheels, in which new functions will be implemented primarily through software. And I have this favorite theme which tells that the software is eating the car. That's how it is becoming at this point of time. And once the vehicle is an IoT device, we would be looking at a future where a faulty ecosystem can expose the vehicle to threaten vulnerability, and there is an increased risk of cyber attack. And more serious, actually, it's not only the V2V, but when you're talking about grid and the larger infrastructure, these kind of cyber attacks can have a huge impact, much more than what we can imagine, right? So solution for automotive cyber security, I would say it has to be very proactive and multi-layered at this point of time. So the first is starting at individual electronic components and systems must be secured. Then following this, the connection between these component systems needs to be made secure as the second one. And, and the third one would be the focus should shift towards protecting and securing the external interfaces, what we have. And once all the external interfaces are secured, as a final step, it is the data processing which will take place outside the car that has to be strengthened to prevent the data theft as well as exploitation. And when we look at the cloud and backend solutions, all these things have to be given importance at a final stage, because all of them are also vulnerable to these attacks. So I would say the cyber security can be kind of tackled in three broad steps. One is basically prevented, which is making it as hard as possible to attack. So typically involving a hardware encrypted crypto or an embedded security software, secure network, secure vehicle architecture, and so on. The second one is understand. The understanding that, knowing that you are being hacked and how in real time it can impact. And this involves live monitoring and tracking of the connected vehicles. And third, I would say it is a response. So which is mitigate the damage and immunize the fleet, especially with the fleet in the, in a very short time. And this involves even software updates over the air, or maybe patch management and so on. So cybersecurity is not a one-time process currently. It is actually an evolving one, and we need to continuously and proactively improve our cybersecurity processes to stay ahead of hackers, right? So this is something which is a very important factor which is coming up. And if this autonomous driving e-mobility future has to be really working well, this aspect have to be addressed very well. Along with that, is also talking about the latency as well as the reliability topics. So this goes, hand in hand. So one another thing which I would like to say is that the extent of penetration of a connectivity in a vehicle also depends on the region in which it is sold. And there are a lot of technologies which are there, which is working online and offline mode. And how do you handle cybersecurity in these modes? That also is critical. So instead, in Continental, our vision is basically talking about always on. Yeah, so it is a cellular vehicle to everything connection. It has certain futuristic technology which is also designed to connect vehicles with each other as well as infrastructure further and further road users. How do we effectively mitigate the risk even in an offline topic? This is also something which is being worked on. But Satish, I would like to take this conversation to a different dimension, which is very important. So now, when you look at the cars, the V2X contains cars which are popularly known as talking cars, right? So the cars that can talk and hear. So what is missing from there is adding a vision. So adding a vision will help it to make it more robust and also help in identifying a non V2X vehicle in the V2X environment, which is critical. So how will this combination of vision-based sensors and the V2X work in the real-world situation? What is your take on it?
Yeah, so this is leading to the topic of sensor fusion, right? And this is basically something which is being done, which is there in current technology cars as well. So where they are combining, and the key sensors right now are camera, lidar, radar, ultrasonic. Each of them have their own range and give up a particular functionality which helps cars either navigate, provide ADAS functionality for the users and so on. Now, typically many of these are combined, and that gives a better perception for the car's compute system about the environment. Now, the key thing there, and one of the things which V2X will bring in, is the fact that the current set of technologies are line of sight, right? So basically what you see or what you can sense is what you are then combining. And then combining is also being done at multiple levels, right? You can combine at sensor level, you can combine at inference level, you can combine at the final, what you have decided as the decision level, and so on. So there is multiple levels of combining. Now, what V2X, one of the things which brings in, and it's going to help in the next generation cars or the next generation technologies where we will have autonomous driving, is the fact that it brings non-line of sight. It also brings in information about the vehicle's intent and the vehicle's position, vehicle's steering angle, and so on. See, that basically enhances the ability of the car system to assimilate that information and then decide faster, making it more safer, and more efficient when it goes forward. And these are technologies not necessarily, already in the market, but these are things which we are seeing that our customers and OEMs and tiers are integrating at this point of time, where they are taking a V2X information and overlaying it on top of the existing LiDAR, radar information and helping further decisions. And we also see that this is something which the market is driving towards, right? There are partnerships announced between LiDAR providers like RoboSense and CV2X providers like Datang. There's also demonstrations of this. A group has demonstrated something called AutoC2X, which is essentially takes AutoWare and OpenC2X and combines it, and has actually demonstrated how this can be combined and provide a safer environment, faster information, and so on, right? And the last thing, of course, is the fact that this is something innovative, which somebody's talking about. He's saying, okay, how do I help the communication itself, right? And one of the advantages of these sensors is that they give you an idea of the environment. What if I can take the information from LiDAR, radar, and the environment and actually see how it impacts the V2X communication itself, and then feed that information back to the network? That seems to be another interesting area where this is heading. And all of this, of course, is backed by some of the technologies which are now being in place, right? 5G being the main one, right? And that's where I would like to lead and probably get your views on it. What does 5G bring to V2X? How does it take it to the next level? And what are the things which are interesting about 5G which will make this happen?
Okay, so I would say that why 5G was very evident from what you spoke, because we are talking about fast, close to real time. So that itself is a major thing, right? So the high speed communication and the ongoing network connectivity and fast responses, these are the three things which really pave the way for smart cars in the future, right? And 5G will dramatically strengthen the capability of the self-driving vehicles by improving speed, latency, and power consumption also, while supporting more device connections, which is very much required since, like you mentioned, the different sensors and all that. So in any vehicle-to-vehicle scenario, the quality of network will play a very key role. And these connected vehicles kind of generate as well as transmit, receives huge amount of data, and speed is a very important parameter there. I mean, I was just reading somewhere that if you have a connected vehicle, the amount of data that it generates runs to many petabits, and you can imagine with the current 4G or the others connection, how do you really transfer this data, process it, and act on real time is really questionable. So it's very clear that we need to move into the 5G world, and this 5G Automotive Association, which promotes this interoperable 5G based V2X connection group, they provide vehicle applications itself into four categories. Why we need 5G? So the primary one is safety. Yeah, so the use cases that aim to reduce the frequency and the severity of the vehicle accident, like the warning drivers of collision risk and so on. The second part is the convenience, the use cases that manage the data and the vehicle health, offering diagnostics, the software over the air, and so on. And the third one is important one, which is the vulnerability road user or the VRU. So the use cases that support a secure interaction between vehicle and non-vehicle road users, which is the pedestrians, bicycles, and so on. And the last but not the least is the advanced driving assistance itself, the use cases that actually focuses on improving traffic flow, the traffic signal timing, weather alerts, and a lot more, right? So these are something which are very important, and V2X relies not only if, on the data from sensors, but it also relies on data from nearby cars, right? So this introduces a set of advanced solutions which are coming up in terms of the cooperative driving, which avoids the collisions and safety warning. So one typical example which I would like to stress upon is there are many use cases possible, but one of them is what we call it as a platooning. It is basically used for vehicles operating in close proximity. So it's like a convoy of vehicles, and such a convoy can accelerate and brake simultaneously. So which increase the capacity of the road. It actually reduces the amount of fuel that is consumed, and moreover, it is told that it can even reduce the carbon dioxide emission up to 16%, which is actually a huge number at this point of time, right? And with 5G, this high density platooning is possible with when more than three vehicles can communicate with each other. It can do a platooning. So there are different kind of benefits, and if you can also imagine what is the kind of benefit it brings in if you have this long distance truck drivings, which they kind of fleet smooths together, right? So overall, I would say that the 5G network kind of opens the door for digital transformation of the automotive industry and brings in a future with the autonomous vehicles one step closer and maybe faster than what it is at this point of time. Yeah, so this is my take on it, and I would say that in building the V2X autonomous care of tomorrow, my belief is that edge computing can be leveraged in a big way, right? So, can you throw some light on how this edge computing can catalyze the topic of V2X?
Yeah. Actually, what the things you mentioned about 5G and the vehicle data, right, and the amount of data each vehicle is generating, and the fact that you need potentially ultra low latency communication, these are the core principles, right? And this directly leads to this edge compute, and this is also being standardized as parts of ETSI, where they're talking about a multi-access edge compute. So this brings us to that topic, which is basically, look, you have these vehicles which are generating high amount of data, need a lot of compute to process this data. Now, they also need to communicate with the network to provide this data and interact. But the latencies of a general network, whether it's 4G, even potentially in 5G, there will be latencies involved, maybe some which will be hundreds of milliseconds and so on. Now, for the applications which require much less latency or faster response, right? Say platooning could be one as well. So what could be the technology which will help? And mobile edge compute sits right there, right? So bringing the capabilities of edge compute right at the access node edge and with a low latency and less than 20 milliseconds in some cases, right? So which helps many applications. One, it helps offloading of this data, as you said, right? Fast offloading of this data, do the compute at the mobile edge. You can draw inferences, you can add augmented reality on top of it, then feed it back to the same vehicle or neighboring vehicles, which then enhance their perception of the environment and making it more safer or more efficient. So that seems to be one of the best use cases of this, where you're talking about offloading of, perception, offloading of compute, also thereby reducing the energy consumed by the vehicle itself. So that seems to be one use case. Then, of course, there are use cases such as see-through, where a vehicle is seeing through another vehicle's vision, which is being fed to the mech, and then that mech is inferencing and sending it back to the other vehicle. So that helps in, better safety on the road and so on. Now, again, all of these technologies seem to be already deployed and they're, or at least available. Verizon has talked about this. AWS and Azure also have solutions such as Wavelength, which is basically used as a mobile edge compute. And there are two things which are being talked about there, right? One is public networks, which is essentially safety type of applications like this, which are basically public networks deployed. But you could also take the same thing and put it in a private network. And there are use cases of this which are being talked about, and these are more commercial and business oriented. For example, a port or a big factory who wants to teleoperate their vehicles, right? Because typically in these type of environments, you don't have too many people, or they're harsh environments, and you don't want too many people because of the safety. So you could use a mobile edge compute as a private network, including having your own servers and data, but with 5G access, where the 5G latency and this architecture will help you teleoperate your entire fleet, where basically vehicles are being driven from a central console or a central place, and there are no needs for drivers. So this seems to be an application and an area which will enable basically the V2X adoption and use cases. So this seems again another interesting area for exploration in the future.
Yeah. Thanks for that interesting answer. So I think I think the points what you brought about, I think it will also probably bring in a lot of commercial benefits with V2X, especially if live data can be processed and used commercially, maybe for insurance companies or advertisement industry and so on, right? So I think the what we are talking about is kind of a range of topics which can evolve, right? Okay.
All right, thanks, Radha. So it's been an interesting range of topics. Thanks for the discussion. Thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you very much. I also really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you very much.
Well, when we enjoyed the discussion, thank you, Satish and Latya, for your views, thoughts, and insights. Your present discussion on the future of automotive vehicles was no less gripping than a sci-fi movie. Thanks so much once again for that interesting discussion.